Robertson McDonald question.
Okay.
Was it a big debate on keeping your last name when you got married?
Oh. I'm sure it was not a debate, but it was an encouragement from my father to drop my middle name and keep my last name as my middle name. So that's what I did.
That's what you did.
Yeah, and I'm happy with that.
And I have you in my phone twice because I knew you before you got married.
That's right.
So I have a Taylor Robertson and a Taylor McDonald.
And like at work, people sometimes still call me, "Hey, Taylor Robertson." I'm like, "Hey, I'll answer to it." You know, I don't like correct them or anything.
Is this like a hyphenated, like a Rodham?
Oh, I'm not a hyphen.
No.
I'm not like that. I mean, I'm very much team like girl power for sure. Like I think girls can do lots of things. But I don't need to hyphenate my name to tell you that or anything. You know, I'm good.
So our podcast, our vision for this podcast is super hyper local. Like if nobody listens to it outside of Shreveport Bossier, we're okay with that.
Love that.
And I feel like
or
Taylor,
particularly your mother, like.
Well,
if she's the only listener,
she's in Northwest
I've
Louisiana.
listened to some episodes. I think they're very good. I like them.
So Taylor is probably out of everybody I know the most Shreveport as they come.
True that.
Shreveport
come
as
over
they
the
come.
river. It stresses me.
I'm surprised you even came over here.
I will for you later.
It was only about 100 yards over the river.
It was yes.
So born in Shreveport.
Yes.
Elementary school Shreveport.
Shreveport.
Middle school Shreveport.
Shreveport.
High school Shreveport.
What school?
Well, I hopped around a little bit. So I grew up in Blanchard. Went to Herndon Elementary.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then
The smart kids.
Yeah, that's right. In the magnet program. And then I went to St. Joseph's. A real hard turn there for 4th through 8th grade. Mm-hmm. Graduated with 28 people. And then I went to Magnet High.
Mm-hmm. Definitely
Fancy.
hard turn there.
Yes, very hard turn, but I loved it. It was great. And then I went to Centenary. I mean, I'm Shreveport through and through. Hardcore.
So she literally has never lived anywhere besides Shreveport.
I have not.
Have you left Shreveport?
Oh, absolutely. I will leave
She
it
actually
plenty
has
of times.
because I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Of your recent trip.
Oh, yes.
The Masters. She was at the Masters.
We went to the Masters.
Tell
So
me
my
about
husband
that.
turned 50 this year.
Yeah, and he's a golf
Shout out
guru.
to Jason. Love that guy. Puts up
He's
with
a
me
golf
every day.
guru, right? He has a master's degree in like golf management or golf course.
I feel like Jason
something.
and I are both very type A people. That's a fair statement to say about both of us in different ways. But he's probably the only person I know that went to college, knew what he wanted to do when he started college, and he still does that and still loves it. So he has a degree from Mississippi State, the land school.
Mississippi State.
That's where you go to know all the stuff.
Start Vegas. And it is a degree in agronomy with a specialization in turf management.
No, it's weird because you'll be over at your house and you're like, yeah, man, I don't know, my grass isn't growing right here. He's like, well, here's the thing. You have 3 types of grasses, and this is a fungus called this, and this is what you're going to need to treat that and handle that. And you're like, all right, man. Well, I was making small talk.
Yeah, I know.
Send that in a text.
I tell him all the time, I'm like, babe, we just need a B- yard. Like, I want to go sit on my front porch, and I don't want people to come ask me,
how is y'all's yard?
It's B-, and I love that. I don't want an A+ yard because it's too many questions. I just want to sit on my porch and drink my coffee or my little whiskey, and I don't need questions.
Yeah, so he's not
B-.
Okay. So he doesn't treat your yard like the golf course.
Okay. No, thank God.
And he's recently, I guess in the past year, you took the job at East Ridge.
He did.
To go kind of redo.
265, so he's at David Tom's too, and he likes it.
He's at David Tom's too?
Well, the David Tom's 265 Academy is owned by the same people that own East Ridge and Piermont. So he kind of oversees all those properties. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Masters, 20 out of 10 recommend.
Okay,
I hope
so
we can go
let's
again.
talk about the Masters because I watch it on TV.
Yes.
I lived in Augusta for a while, couldn't afford to even look at it.
Right.
You can't really look at it. There's fences up.
You cannot.
So to keep people like my family out. You could hear them cheer though.
Oh yeah.
You're like, they're the rich people reminding us that they're right around the corner. So on the course, is it just free roaming? You just go where you want to go?
Okay, so number 1, no cell phones at the Masters.
Do they put them in the little bags, or how do they do this?
We just left them in the car.
Okay.
Because safe space, right? Number 2, you can bring them in and check them. They'll give you a little ticket. That felt a little time consuming.
Hold it?
They'll hold it for you, sure. But you can't make it past just like you
Well,
can't enter. They need to get
the yonder bags. Isn't that what they're called? Yonder?
Yeah, the big pouches.
Yeah, the big pouches.
Right.
Number 2, and most important, no running. No running at Augusta. So if you know what spot you want to be at,
no running in golf. So
you
it makes
have to
sense.
speed walk.
This
to
is
your
like
spot.
the Chris Paul commercial.
Yeah.
When he's State Farm and he's doing
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
reading the instructions, you're like, no running. Okay, like wasn't considering it. I mean, for me, I wasn't considering running.
Yeah.
But there
Yeah.
are people who do speed walk and they're very serious about it.
Yes.
What I want to do now is I want to go back now that I know all the things I know,
Yeah.
right? So we went to the practice rounds Monday and Tuesday. Practice rounds, you can take pictures. Those are the only 2 days you can take pictures. So you can have a very fancy camera, which we do not have, or you can have a camera from Best Buy. It's like about $70 for a digital, very pixelated camera, which was the pictures I posted on Facebook that
Gotcha.
you
That
can
makes
pretty
sense.
sort of kind of
Okay.
tell that we're there.
Okay.
But I was like, we're not going to do all this, guys, and not have some photographic evidence that
Yes.
we have
Yeah,
made
you
it,
got it.
you know?
Yeah.
But it was, there is not a blade of grass out of place. Like
Yeah.
Jason McDonald was like, look at
Yeah.
that Toro, look
Yeah.
at these trees, you know, they're grounded, like all the things that normal people wouldn't notice. Like
Yeah. He got inspiration from it.
I've never seen the man so happy in
Really?
my entire life. I was like, this is so great.
Real
Like-
grass man.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Tiger, would you move over? I want
Yeah.
to see that tree right there.
We had the best time. Like he was really happy and it was super fun.
That's
so
really funny. Yeah,
Yes.
that's cool. I
and
want to
there's
go.
definitely like levels of rich people there,
Yeah.
right? And so like the little country bumpkins that we are, you know, here we go. You can pick us out of a crowd. And then so there's these other people, they don't accept sponsors at the Masters. I mean, because they don't need to. But there are people who donate things, obviously. For example, Coca-Cola donates the products, but when you go and buy something, it's just called cola or Diet Cola, not actually Coke, right?
Okay.
But those people that donate things, I'm not really sure what my company can donate to the Masters yet, but I'm
Yeah,
hoping
yeah.
I can work some synergies here. But
Sure.
you get to get in this place called Berkman's Place, okay? So the peons, they get into regular merch. You can get into the merchandise,
Okay.
regular merch. I figured out, the accountant and me, that an average person spends about $1,500 in the merch tent. And there's 40,000 people a day. It's about 60 million a day in regular merch, okay? But Berkman's Place, you have to have a wristband along with your card, little ticket thing, which the security guard has to see about every 10 feet or they'll kick you out. Like, it is no playing around in there.
This
What
is
I-
just
what
to buy stuff.
Correct.
What I like is that Jason's looking at the trees and grass, and you're thinking of the business model.
Calculating how much money these people are making.
That tends to be what I do. I was
Right.
doing it at the hotel. We were there a couple weeks ago.
And so, okay, Berkman's Place has special merch. So the little buffoons that get in there, they wear their merch out to kind of broadcast, like, hey, I'm special enough to
status
get
play.
Berkman's
Gotcha.
Place
Yeah.
merch.
Yeah.
It's all you can eat drink in there.
Okay.
Very fancy. I have not experienced, but I want to. Then, okay, the most upper echelon is the green jacket. So if you're a
Yes.
member, not a winner, like, so you're a guest member if you win, right? You
Yeah.
get a green jacket. But
Yeah.
if you're actually a member and pay dues, you wear your green jacket around. Since we couldn't have our phone and Google people, we're just constantly writing people's names down in the green jacket so that we can Google people later. One of these people is the great grandkid of the man who started the largest bank in Africa,
Okay.
just as one does, you know?
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
thought that was very
so
fancy.
he was a green jacket.
He was.
Green jacket.
So you could
gold jacket.
spend that money on sponsorships, or you could spend that much money into your kids starting private golf lessons at like the age of 3, and just hope.
Right. Hope and a prayer.
Yeah. Right.
Also, your kid would have to be approximately 6 feet tall and 180 pounds, because that's
Okay.
pretty
Do
well
they all
every
look
golfer.
alike? Okay.
There's a few outliers. There's an Australian amateur that's about 6'7". I mean,
Yeah.
his legs were like his whole body. But I mean,
Yeah.
when these guys, I love professional sports. Like
Yeah.
watching any professional athlete perform is very intriguing to me. Like last year, we went to the U.S. Open, stayed there 13 hours a day, loved
Right.
it so much in tennis. But I mean, they swing a golf club, and you're like, oh, okay, that's why you're a professional at this,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm not that at anything, so it's very fancy.
What's your favorite sport to watch?
Oh, that's a hard one. But I would say probably tennis,
Yeah.
probably. But I like all the
I like
lifetime
tennis. I like
sports.
golf.
Yeah.
Golf's the best on Sunday
I
afternoon.
like football.
To sleep to.
Yeah.
You know,
I could do some sleeping.
Yeah, it's almost like the clapping's kind of like rain. You know,
ASMR. Yeah.
Yeah.
Golf or lady at Aldi buying chips.
Yeah.
I mean, both about the same.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of intriguing things. I see Josh over there taking notes. Just some things to circle back. Let me just clear my mind.
I like that.
I do like that. And it's on graph paper, so you can take notes or draw or
That's right.
Zone out. XY graph.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, you are you own a company in a male-dominated industry. Would that be safe to say?
Very safe.
Okay.
Can we hear about this company?
Sure.
I would love to know more.
Okay.
And then the second thing I was going to point out is that you are a third-generation business owner. Very similar to Josh.
Third generation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so those are two unique things about your business we can talk about. But let's just talk about the A.E. Robertson. What's the rest of it?
Talk about it. A.E. Robertson. That's it. That's pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Do you
named
like
after my grandfather?
Yeah, and and so what year was that?
1964.
Okay, and back then every business was just your name.
It was.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like not all of our competitors. We mostly have two main competitors in Shreveport, which we all get along and all that kind of stuff. That Bob Davis sales,
Bob Davis. I think I've heard of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Do you have
then specialty, but
we're not trash talking. We
no,
like Bob.
Bob.
Seems like a fun
Is
guy.
he still around?
Mr. Bob Sr. passed away this past year. Very sad. But little Bob, that's what we call him.
Okay.
Bob Jr. He works out of the Kilgore store. Just saw him yesterday
Little
at our
Bob.
open house. He came to support. I was very grateful. And his son was there with him, Brent.
Y'all open up a new location? Is that what you're saying?
No. So we have an open house for our customers every year.
And he came to check on y'all?
He did.
Cool.
Had a big fish fry, and we give a customer appreciation gift and have a big raffle, and all our vendors come in town. So, but essentially what our company, so my grandpa started the company in 1964. He worked for Mid-Continent Supply out of Oklahoma City. And then once the Haynesville Shell started to get, I guess, founded or, kind of figuring out that there was some stuff down here, he moved down here and opened up this location.
And supplying, what are you supplying?
Okay, so where we sit in the market is we're a manufacturer rep, like a wholesaler in the market. So the oil field supply industry, from like an outsider's perspective, is probably like the most bizarre supply chain management you could. I mean, it's not, but it's just very regulated, but within the people. Right? So not by any governing body. So I represent a bunch of manufacturers and I hold their products. And so I get paid a commission to sell their line. So it's like, hey, do you like this wellhead or this wellhead? Kind of like a Target, Walmart situation. Yeah. Okay. And then we buy and resell a bunch of products. So
and Lil Bob, he has the same tool, just a different manufacturer.
It's correct, yes. Yeah. And there are some things that maybe I have that he doesn't, but the gamut of it. And then all the commodity items we pretty well all have, and so.
What would be a handful of those?
Like a tubing swedge or a pipe nipple or a plug. Or
swedges and nipples I'm familiar with.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have malleable fittings, we have forged steel fittings. Basically, essentially anything to pump oil or gas out of the ground is what I sell.
Okay. And now the Haynesville Shell, you'll know more about this, but somebody told me this because that a lot of people got rich here, 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. But they knew the Haynesville Shell existed for 30 years,
right?
70s, 80s. They had known, but they didn't have the equipment or the capability of extracting it.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden, and then all these rednecks become millionaires overnight.
Well, and a lot of the drilling in the beginning was very shallow well stuff before they did,
And everybody was making a lot of money during that time.
Sure. And we still do a lot of shallow well stuff. We go on milk runs. And so what that is every week we go to a specific area and we deliver to our customers. And so that's kind of the bread and butter backbone of our business. And so that's in South Arkansas and Mississippi. But currently we have a store here in Shreveport and then in Kilgore. Texas.
I want to back up a little bit because I left off of you going to high school. You went to Centenary and got your degree in finance.
In accounting. And economics, yeah.
It's the same thing to me, but
right,
hey,
I know.
Deals with money.
Right.
Okay, you got your degree there, and at that time, I guess your plan was to become a CPA.
It was, yes.
And you did become a CPA.
I did.
So at the time, I guess you grew up around the family business.
Right.
You had no really desire or aspiration to be a part of it?
Not really. So my dad was an only child, okay? And so then my dad had 3 girls.
This is your paternal grandfather who started it.
Correct.
Your dad's dad.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Big Al. That's what we call him.
Big
Al. Little Bob.
I mean,
that's right. Welcome to the oil field. Everybody has a nickname. Wow. It's so true, though. Everybody's like,
Do you have one? I mean, should we give you one?
So my dad's nickname for me growing up was T-Bone. I don't really love that nickname because I feel like kind of like a piece of meat, like whatever. But he still calls me T-Bone, and I'm very
Would somebody show up and be like, "Hey, I need to speak to T-Bone," and Taylor's like,
that's me. In the male-dominated world, some people call me Country Club, which is not as kind as it should be. But my customers do love me, and it's fine, you know.
So I do have to say something, Taylor. Every time she says this, I point it out. But she says there's a restaurant in town that she just calls the steakhouse. Like it is the only steakhouse around.
I say, do you want to go to steakhouse?
Do you want to go to steakhouse? Yeah, Outback. That's right? No. No, Foster's. That is the closest steakhouse to your house.
It is?
Yeah.
So,
no, she just calls it steakhouse like, you know, Two Johns doesn't exist. Or
love y'all, but y'all don't have a lot of restaurants in Bossier, so I don't need to really specify.
So she's considered superior. It's steakhouse.
Superior steakhouse.
Yeah, but she's just it's steakhouse.
I feel like maybe it's a Shreveport thing to say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Shout out to David, by the way. We got to get him on here every time. Oh, wait, that's not David. Yeah, Superior Steakhouse. Oh no, that's Phil Barbary.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
Yeah,
he is a great guy.
I do like
Phil.
Phil.
That shout out.
Phil's a great guy.
We just.
I literally those 2 guys feed my family almost every day. Phil Barbary and David Alvis. You know, those 2 restaurants just.
That's right.
Keep us full.
So steakhouse.
All right,
T-bone at the steakhouse.
T-bone
at the
steakhouse.
steakhouse.
Maybe a signature dish.
No.
All right, so going back,
We
T-bone.
digressed.
All right. So you graduate college. You become a CPA.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
Sat for the exam. But I had a job. I worked at Herd McElroy and Vestal. Shout out. Still love them. For about 6 years in the auditing department. You know.
Hey, by the way,
my favorite.
If you want, yes. Like any finance position I've ever tried to hire, Taylor's like, get an auditor.
Auditors are where it's at, okay?
Yeah. She's
and
like,
the tax people are great too.
Get an auditor.
But the auditors are the people who have the experience going in businesses, digging in, seeing what's going on. They kind of know what works, what doesn't work, and you just see kind of the gamut. Which we worked in nonprofit, for-profit, and a lot of financial institutions. So like little community banks and stuff. And so that was kind of the bread and butter of what I mostly enjoyed working on. So I tried to get on as many jobs as I could for that. Yeah. But it was really fun.
Taylor helped my businesses a lot over the years. And there was a time where the oil field was down and she needed.
Thank you, COVID.
She needed some. And at the time, I'm sure she left every meeting just thinking how stupid is
not at all.
Because she's like, you have all this business going on and money coming in, and like I had no clue. Like,
do you have this written down on paper anywhere, or
what's that?
Is it?
I still don't know. I'll still call and be like, hey,
tell me about this.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Hey, you know a lot more now than
I do know a lot more now, but I had no clue.
The really cool thing that I love about like the consulting work that I did, still do a little, but obviously my time is more at a Robertson, but watching people who are really good at their craft, that's what I call it. Like, cause that's what you're good at. Like, or typically it's maybe not super great at like managing like their business finances, managing their balance sheet. Like that's a whole.
I'm sitting right here. Okay.
No, I've said it to your face. No, that's not a knock at Leighton. That's plenty of people.
No, it's 100%. But you know what's crazy is because this is a business podcast, but most people don't know what they don't know what they don't know.
Correct.
It's like I didn't even know I should be tracking my numbers.
Yeah.
My thermometer on my business was looking at my bank account, which is not the way to do it, right? Which actually was a huge stress reliever, knowing that the bank account is just a moment in time. It's a lag or a lead measure. Like, it's not something like you got to go off of your balance sheets or your income, all these things, right? And so, so that was big for me, because I would just be like, okay, why is there no money there? You know?
Yeah. But Leighton has taught me a lot of things too, because I say, like, Leighton is an airplane guy. You know, like, he likes to sit in the airplane.
Or
well, I don't know what kind of airplane.
Spirit.
Frontier. But he is very, very good at using people and resources to get what needs to get done, and he can stay out of the weeds, is what I mean.
Yeah.
And sometimes, from my background being a numbers accountant weed person, I can sometimes get stuck in the weeds and I don't spend enough time in the airplane, and I'm like, oh shoot, like, where are we driving to? You know, I can see that as one of my pitfalls, so I have to like put my Leighton hat on and be like, okay, I got to get in the airplane today. I'm riding the spike.
Right.
And it's not going
I'm looking at
great
this
for me.
grass a little too hard.
Josh likes to get in the mix.
I love the weeds.
You know, you focus a lot on daily operations and processes. And
I love numbers.
Yes, numbers.
I like getting on an Excel spreadsheet and just kind of
duking it out.
Yeah. So I get it. I'm with you. And it is, you're right, because, you know, as you are just diving in head first in this and looking at this one little nick and cranny that's wrong, I mean, it's bugging you like crazy.
Right.
And you're like, fix this.
Right.
You do lose sight of maybe a bigger or more important idea that you need to be pushing towards. So I feel that 100%.
Well, and another thing I'm learning this year, I feel like, is selling myself both ways, right?
Wait a minute. Continue.
Okay. So, like, I would say top priority for all of my employees, like our whole team or whatever, is obviously customer service. Like, that is like the most important thing at our company, because essentially we sell widgets for a living. Like, anybody could sell you that, you know?
Yeah. So you would say you're a commodity.
That is fair. Some of the things are very specialized. It's not like somebody's going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, man, I really want a K wellhead right now. You know, like, that's not going to happen. But when you need it, you need it. And you need to know who to call, and you need to know if something's not right with it, who can get you the parts you need, and all the things. But secondarily, like, in that, we're selling upstream to my vendors to make sure that the relationship with my vendors continues to be fruitful, because, you know, I mean, they can pick anybody to sell their stuff, right? And so they need to know that I'm doing a good job getting their product out there and selling them. And so this year I've been making a good number of trips up to visit with our vendors.
Well, that's interesting too, because Josh, you know, that's a big deal with you, right? Is that, you know, and I always say it's even in real estate, right? I mean, what we're selling is really like, it doesn't really exist. What we're really selling doesn't exist. Because we do have a widget or a item, but what we're really selling is the trust, the safety, the customer service, the smile, the friendly, the relationship, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I connect a lot to what you're saying, because when you mentioned commodity, that's exactly what we do, is essentially sell commodities or something that can be found dozens of other places, if not hundreds of other places. And so, again, how do you bring a separation to your business, to your people, to your team, to your company? Whereas, you know, Lil Bob, which we love Lil Bob, he's doing a similar thing, and it's the same with our competitors that, you know, selling the same too before. So what are we doing that is actually meaningful to a customer?
Right.
Yeah. Lil Lowe's.
Someone
wants to call Lil Lowe's. Yeah.
I feel like the generation before me, they all, like, you know, had better nicknames than we have.
You had a position in the lumber industry at one point, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was at Herb McElroy for 6 years. Okay. And then I went and I was the controller at Allen Millwork.
Millwork.
I know, for about
Lil Allen.
a year and some months.
What year was this?
That's a great question.
That place is massive,
it was like,
by the way. Is that the place on in like a Cedar Grove off Hearn?
Yes, it is.
It's massive. I remember getting an order one time for something. I was like, this place is huge. You don't know.
Which they've closed down now. They got bought out by Cassidy Jones, and then
Cassidy sold.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not in the
So
loop
these like
anymore.
bigger national, bigger conglomerates just eating up smaller ones.
Not nationals,
Okay.
but bigger regionals.
Regionals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I worked there. There was like 100 employees and managed all of those little friends and all the accounting, and it was great. Jason was like, you're about to build an apartment in the backyard and take care of all these people. So I realized that my gift is not HR. That's not where I shine.
Yes.
Not at all. It's very hard for me. I am learning and growing, but that's not. But yeah, I did that and I loved it. It was a hard job because they were in some pickles, but we got out of some pickles and we worked through it, and yeah, it was really good. But then that's when, so my grandparents worked together every day. My parents worked together every day.
Love it.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
And
is
so
Brooke working with you or?
So my grandparents work together. My mother and father work together. My wife will never work with me.
right. So
Yeah.
third generation, right? I looked at Jason McDonald into the gig and I was like, there is no way. Like for our marriage, I just
Yeah.
don't feel like it's a help. I've already
Yeah.
seen it twice.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love my parents and like, I cannot believe they made it through and they are living their best lives in retirement. And I'm so happy for them, but there were some tough days, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's some rough times.
Yeah.
And being from an entrepreneurial family, like when are you not talking about work?
Yeah.
It's
well,
all the time.
it has to be established, right?
Right.
'Cause
And it is hard.
Yeah, because Laurie was my assistant for about a year, and you know, you're getting in bed like, "Hey, did you send that?" And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, it's
we're-
bad.
email,
It's bad.
yeah.
Right. We're at my grandmother's funeral, and
Yeah.
it's like, did you get the P&L?
Yeah. Did you sell some 2x4s today? Hey, babe, what'd you sell? You know? Yeah. So I think we'll keep with that in my family.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes.
Very firm on that.
Well done.
So when did you?
Okay.
When did you start working in the family business?
Right. So then when my parents were like, hey, maybe not a good idea to work together. I had just had a baby and Imogen was in the NICU and it was a lot. And so I was like, well, maybe I could kind of do this more back of the house stuff and it wouldn't be as taxing as the other job was. And so I
And
went
how old
there.
is she now?
She's 11.
11.
So
So
I've
11
been
years
there
ago.
12, about 12 years.
12 years at A. 12 years.
I
Okay.
know. And so the first, I would say probably 7, I was really just doing a lot of accounting. We had to convert systems, like lots of
It was
things.
very outdated.
Very outdated.
One of
Love
the
you,
funniest
Mikey.
one of the
Yeah.
funniest stories was you telling me about the so this was 2012 2013
Yeah.
was going from typewriters to computers.
Well, that was at Allen Millwork, but
Oh, okay.
that was a whole thing too. Yes. So they use typewriters to file the sales tax returns. And like in Louisiana, you can file every parish on the same. Anyway. And so like this lady was getting paid, like her whole job was typing sales tax returns on the typewriter. And I just like threw a typewriter away and eliminated her job. I'm like, no, like we'll just file these online. Like we're good, you know?
The next day you showed up and she had went and got
She
the
got it out of the
typewriter
garbage, the trash can.
Country club's got to go.
She
gotta
did maybe not my biggest fan, but I really like there were other things she could do, you know, but that didn't go well. But even at A. Robertson, it was very outdated. We had a DOS system. Like when I came, no mouse usage at all, only the function keys.
I used to love playing Wheel of Fortune on that DOS. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was like the first game I played on the computer on my Tandy.
Wow.
Yeah.
We still
Family
do
Feud.
have some inventory cards that we keep because we keep other people's inventory, and so we don't have like access necessarily to their computer system. And I like making sure that we have what we say we're going to have, kind of thing. But the cool thing about those cards, one of my employees keeps fussing at me. I'm not a hoarder by any stretch. Like I love like clean space and all that, but like some of the cards still have my grandpa's handwriting on them, you know.
yeah, you
And I'm
gotta
like,
keep
oh,
that.
we're keeping those
You
for
gotta
sure.
keep that.
There you go.
Yeah.
My
I like
dad's
that.
left-handed. It's very hard to read his handwriting,
Okay.
but I mean, I know I miss seeing all that handwriting everywhere because people will come in and be like, "Hey, what does this say?" You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
"That's Mikey." Yeah. So.
So
it's
you were
good.
doing 7 years doing accounting,
Yes.
inventory.
I've always kept my CPA license. That was the main thing. Redoing the system. We had a lot of pricing special deals in there that we had to kind of like get out of there and all that kind of stuff. And so then after that, now I've just pretty well been out on sales and more operations and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And you officially took over ownership.
Yeah. It'll be
A year
2
ago, 2
years in
years?
December.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So this has been a big generational transfer that's going on here in the last couple of years for you.
Yes. The interesting thing about it, though, having two sisters, that none of them were ever involved in the business in any way, but it was never a thing that I thought that I would buy my parents out. That was never a conversation in our family. And so then both of my parents kind of realized, so my mom had a business too, and so my other sister bought that business. So
what was that business?
Favorite Sisters Boutique.
Favorite Sisters Boutique
clothing store. So my sister owns that. My middle sister Alex owns that, and she's awesome and does all that. And then my youngest sister does social media management.
Okay.
So
did I tell you about Alex's husband? What's his name?
Madden.
Did I tell you about us playing pickleball together?
No. Oh dear.
He is we have the same stature, probably.
He's 6'8".
6'8". Okay, I'm 6'5". We're both, husky guys.
Sure,
and,
that's fair.
We show up to the same pickleball court, and I'm like, dude, we got to play together. And we were just like these massive
over in that pickleball court
playing.
Like, whoa.
Talk about sweating. That guy can sweat. Okay?
He does.
Yeah.
He
can
sweats.
sweat.
He is an Enneagram 7. And
so we are just alike.
man.
Me and him are just alike. We need to hang out more often.
He is a good time.
Yeah. So anyways, that was.
I would have loved to have seen this.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were. I mean, we're very intimidating to the other 100-pounders across the court. But I think they were like 70 years old and they beat us. So whatever.
Yeah.
Pickleball.
They
size
play a
doesn't
lot.
matter in pickleball.
That's right. So you're the oldest
Yes.
sibling.
We're all 3 years apart.
Yeah, and so the oldest sibling. Listen, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
You do, in a sense. There's always this expectation growing up. So I'd heard it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. If I was hanging out in the store, somebody would come by. I mean, I'm like 9 years old. Somebody comes by and they're like, "Hey, little Mitch, you gonna take this thing over one day?" And I'm like, "Get lost, man."
Yeah.
No, I'm 10.
Right.
Leave me alone.
I'm starting a rock band.
That's right. I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
That's what pushed me to the edge. But for you, was it the same thing?
No, it wasn't. My dad was like, "I want you to go," and I mean, he always said, "Babe, I want you to be able to take care of yourself. And if somebody else wants to help, that's fine. But you always be able to take care of yourself." That's what he always told me growing up. And it had nothing to do with A.E. Robertson. I mean, owning your own business is really stressful, right? Like, there's a lot of what keeps you up at night, and there's a lot of people that you're tending and taking care of. And so I think in some ways he was okay if we didn't do it. But also the last 10 years, my dad and I have worked together every single day, like every single day in the same office. And I just know, like, there's people who do not get to do that.
That's right.
And such a blessing. Like, me and my dad are very close and total daddy's girl 100 through and through. Anyway, so that's the hardest part now that he's kind of stepping back. He's working 4 days a month. Which seems like a dream life. He loves it. He comes in and kind of still gets to see our customers. He'll mention some things he thinks that I could improve on, which I'm grateful
Just
for.
a few.
Just a few, Big Al was much more, iron fist to my dad than my dad is to me, for sure. And so anyway, and then he'll be like, "I'm super proud of you." And then he'll go do whatever he wants to go do for a few weeks. And then he'll come back and kind of rally cap, get everybody excited. And that's what he's really good at. I say my dad could sell dirt to an ant. I mean, he just is a salesman 100%. So
Yes. Wow.
it's awesome.
So Ivy's, when did it start?
69.
Okay.
Oh, well.
And then
Close.
and your dad took that over, and you've taken over to an extent. You're still and y'all have a consultant group, right? This like group that you're part of that helps generational businesses transition.
That was a 4 or 5 year program that we're wrapped up in. But yeah, I've done several things to help, try to prepare for that, because no one teaches you about generational transfer. And ultimately, as business goes from generation to generation, you find that the reason why they don't last forever is because that generational transfer can get blown up in so many different ways. It's so easy to screw up a generational transfer.
Sure.
And so the fact that the business has made it to 3 generations is exceptional. And then they all say, well, it's the 3rd generation that screws it up. I mean,
No
they
pressure.
There's a great talk that I heard about
absolutely.
the 3 generations,
And
the
you know
3rd generation squanders.
That's right.
Is what they say.
And I can see the makeup of why that can be true in so many ways. I mean, it just seems evident to me that you've got this, visionary at the beginning, and then you've got more of a caretaker generation that comes in to
maintains.
Yep. And as the comfort level of, obviously, I don't know how you grew up. They call you T-Bone, they call you Country Club. It could be a mixed bag, right? But ultimately, as life becomes more comfortable for the kids, and there's less asked of the children, and they don't have to learn to grind. They don't have to do the hard work.
They don't remember.
That's right.
They don't remember the hard, sleepless nights.
That's right. So they don't develop the muscle for that. And then as the third generation comes on, it's a lot of entitlement. It's a lot of spoiled kids are coming in going, hey, this is my place. And, I'm going to do it, my way and all this kind of stuff. So you can see why it's ripe for that.
Sure.
So as a fellow third generation business owner, do you have any thoughts about how you approach that situation?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's hard, I remember my grandparents had matching blue El Caminos with pipe racks on the side, and would carry pipe everywhere. And my dad, growing up, would get a new truck, and we would never know that he got a new truck because he got the same exact truck with a pipe rack every single time. So he'd be like, do y'all like my new truck? And I'm like, okay, Dad, whatever. He's like, it smells good. That's the only way you would know, and you're like, okay, well, whatever. But, I do come from, both my mom and my dad are just really hard workers, and so, and they definitely did not set us up to be entitled. I did not want for anything. That's not what I'm saying, but they instilled a large value of hard work into us. And so I'm very grateful for that. As a mom now, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
it is
you feel like
really
you're doing the
hard.
same?
I am trying.
Because I'm I think
hard.
back to my childhood and all the Saturdays I had to work, and my son's playing on the computer. I'm like, I am failing.
Well, here's the deal. You're buying your kids soda at restaurants.
Hey,
right?
Hey,
no $2 at Wendy's.
They are privileged.
Entitled. Okay, they're getting sodas at Wendy's.
Very. And I just bought my son his first car. And it's nothing luxurious or, it's a third row SUV because he's about to chauffeur the three siblings around. But I do remind him, hey, my first 2 years was with mom's minivan, right?
Yeah.
That Mazda MPV that was 8 years old.
Man.
Yeah. So then he's like, well, just get me a minivan, I guess.
Oh my gosh. The minivan.
Yeah.
So when the PT Cruisers came out, funny story, Mikey loved the PT Cruiser, thought it was awesome.
Who is Mikey?
My dad.
Dad, okay.
Bought it for one of my siblings, and I don't remember what happened, but somehow I ended up driving this thing for a little while. And in my entitlement, I gave him lots of words about how I hated this vehicle. I was like, I'm going to start a midget funeral service. That's what I'm going to do because it feels like I'm driving a hearse. That is what is happening. I was like, Little People, Big Sky. That was the name of my company. And I was going to win. But then I realized not a lot of patrons, how many people pass away that are short people? It was
especially
dicey.
in this area.
Right.
I think you have to go further south.
I don't know where the population is.
Yeah, I think it's further south, closer to those.
We ended up donating that vehicle to someone because he was just too much.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, we do have actually a big population of Little People listeners, and so I don't want to offend them, but they have good sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I think you just have to, generally, whether or not, will my kids work in the business or not? I don't want to put that on them.
Yeah.
I want you to go and do whatever God has for your life. Yeah. And if that happens to be A.E. Robertson and it's available, sure.
Yeah.
We'll give you a whirl.
So I do have a question for you. So now that you're in the business, right, and you're in the ownership role, more sales, more ops, obviously still working on the accounting side as well.
Right. I did hire an accounting manager.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Shout out to Leslie. She saves me.
She's great.
She's great.
But as somebody who never grew up thinking this is what I want to do, how now do you draw meaning from what you're doing in the business?
Well, I just think a lot of family pride, to know, like you said, that this has been going on since 1964. Sometimes when I get down on myself or feel I hope I don't screw this up, or I wonder if this is the right decision. We've been hanging out for 60 years, so, okay, what's going to get us to the next 60 years? What can I do? And obviously it was a decent idea that since we've been able to do it. And so just kind of hanging on to that pride and trying to push through, but no real super great words of wisdom other than I think you just have to get in there and get your hands dirty. You know, you can't be so good like, oh, well, I feel like I want to try to be, and my husband is really good at this. He is a good HR person, so I can lean on him for some advice, but he's very much a servant leader. So I just never want to ask somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do. You know, so drive the forklift. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, I called
but
you.
I can do it.
Called you a couple weeks ago. You're like, I'm in the truck going to deliver something.
Yeah.
Hey, wear your seatbelt, please.
Wear my seatbelt.
wear your seatbelt.
Like yesterday, I drove a trailer back from Kilgore. You know, my dad was nervous the whole time, looking in the rearview mirror, like, babe, you could not get somebody else to do this.
We recently bought a warehouse for some of my trade companies, and it's funny. The first thing my guys want is a forklift. I'm like, just because you have a warehouse doesn't mean you need a forklift. I'm not buying a forklift.
Absolutely, it does.
I would imagine my insurance would skyrocket if I had a forklift, and there's nothing good for you to do here with the forklift. So,
because
I remember working for my first job was at Taylor Rental. Do you remember that place?
I know.
On Jewella? We used to rent out party supplies and tents, like party tents and stuff. And my department didn't have a forklift, but every day on lunch break, I went and drove that sucker. Everybody left the warehouse. I was just doing donuts, you know.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's why you don't need a forklift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I do think you have to get a good team of people, and you have to create like a culture and an expectation of like what your company stands for, and make sure that you try and let all those people.
Well, how do you keep
stand
them
for that.
in an industry like that? How do you keep them motivated? Because it's, you know, maybe in your industry it's very exciting what you do.
Yeah, it's exciting to us. Yeah.
And so how do you keep that excitement and that culture?
I think just putting the right people in the right seat on the bus, you know, it's just hard because in the oil field, everybody wants something yesterday, you know? And so it's not like, oh, let me think about this. Do I have it? Like, no, you got to get up. You got to make sure you have it, because they're pulling in the driveway to get it because something's blown up or something's about to get put in the ground and they have to have it. But I think, one thing we've been doing this year is just being really diligent about making sure we go and call on our customers, and then making sure I know, okay, well, this customer loves Layton. Okay, let me send this Layton to this person. But overall, you know, I've got warehouse guys, sales guys, but our company isn't big. So, and I'm learning also in my HR learning that not everyone is motivated by money, right?
That's
like
right.
we pay commission. So people who are motivated by that works wonderfully. But other people just like, there might be words of affirmation or whatever it is. And so just trying to find that. And since I don't have, 80 employees, I can try to tend our little flock that way. And hopefully, but we have a lot of tenured people. Like our store manager in Shreveport has been with us 20 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah. That's a big one.
He's
especially
great.
right now. I mean, I would say that's my biggest stressor is finding help that stays.
That is the hardest part of owning a business for me right now, I would say. And if you would have told me that 2 years ago when I bought the business, I would have been like, okay, because, learning all the parts and everybody calls something different and all that.
What is your process for hiring? How do you find people?
Sure.
Do you tap on your current employees? Hey, do y'all know
No.
somebody? I mean, what is your process?
Well, I would say the oil field is just weird and different, and I love it. But it's not like I'm going to get on LinkedIn and press a button and be like, oh, here's my guy, that's not it. And so there's just rumblings. I just kind of put my little feet out and I just say, hey, I might be looking for someone. And then just typically within the field, people, you never know who might want to wiggle. The hard part for me, though, is let's say one of those people who I would love to hire works for one of my customers. They're off limits.
Right.
From a respect perspective. And so that's been really hard because that makes the pool of people really small, But I just hired a new warehouse guy, Jeff in Kilgore, sweetest little dumpling, told me it's the best job he's ever had. He did work in a prison before A. Robertson, so I feel like anything could be better than that. But yeah, just kind of hear the rumblings. And if people, leave one of my customers and go work for someone else, then they're fair game. But it's just kind of an understood thing in our industry.
Sure. Here's a question for you. So Kilgore, what's that, an hour and a half away?
It's an hour and 10 minutes,
okay.
Yeah.
And so I also have a location that's about an hour and a half away, an office. And you have 2 locations, about to have a third. How do you keep the Kilgore people feel like they're a part of the team and not just on their own.
So that is really like hard, because if you're based out of a location, it's very easy for that culture to be what you want it to be because you're there kind of modeling that. But I'm there once a week on Mondays. Every Monday I'm in Kilgore. And then on as needed. But I think it just has to be like your presence, I think I can tell you all day long, like, this is it. But like, until we're kind of there together doing it. But also, and I need to improve on this, like, just making sure like that I'm checking in on them. Like, I can look on the system and see the tickets they did, or I can look and see and all that, but it's like, oh, hey, I saw where you sold that. Awesome. That's really great. Like whatever. And so just kind of encouraging them in that way, just making sure that they know that I'm always involved in what they're doing, even if I'm not there every day, which is easier said than done.
Who, when you go out of town to Augusta,
sure,
who runs the show?
Well, the store managers. I mean, we have like a little fam calendar, and like we make sure everybody, but yeah, they don't need me. I mean,
gotcha.
And that's how I want it to be.
Yes.
Channeling my inner Leighton. Yes. I would love for it to be less of me, more of them. Yeah. But the truth is, when your name's on the door, some people just want to see you. And that's okay.
I had a good coaching session Tuesday. And really what came out of it was most of my people are looking through the lens of what Leighton wants, not what's best for the company.
That's right.
And so that was for me is like, that's the question to ask, not what do I want, what's best for the company, and empower them to make those decisions.
Right. And I feel like too in our industry, like it's very hard to forecast too far, right? Because we're not selling bread and milk. So
that's
whatever the
thing.
oil price is,
that's another huge thing I've learned from you.
Yeah.
Is because I will say, oh, I have payroll in 7 days. I don't have the money right now, and I start to panic. And you're like, well, just keep working the process.
And it'll be
Call
there.
AR. AR is an everyday process.
Yeah,
right?
that's
every
right.
Day. AR is
for dollars.
AR is
every day.
Every day. AR is every day. That's
Say,
a big
boy,
one for
you
me.
got my money?
Yeah, I'm like, why is there no money in the account? And she's like, well, look at your AR. Nobody's collected money in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Every day. And so, but that's it, right? Because even some of my guys controllers I have in my companies now, they're like, hey, get ready to put some money in. We might not have money in 5 days. And I'm like, well, let's just wait till the 4th day. And they're like, oh, we got the money.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Work hard. Yeah. That is, it's managing a lot of things, but man, the cash flow management for what we do is pretty intense because you just never know. Like right now we've got a pretty good run, but with the election year and all that, I expect the last 2 quarters to be slow for us. So I just have to kind of preemptively fill my little savings cup buckets and be ready. But they're just hard to predict. You can read all the things and I do every day, but
what changes do you make? Oh, you need to leave soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll save that. I was going to ask, what changes do you make when you forecast that it's about to be tight?
Yeah. So obviously, like, in what I do, I can have money or I can have inventory. Those are the 2 choices of things that I can have. And so I slow down what I have, and then I just buy more frequently, assuming that the material is available. But that's a whole nother can of worms. Like managing inventory is very difficult because 2 weeks ago they could tell me they had it, and then now I can't find it anywhere, but my customer doesn't really care if I can find it or not. They just need it. And so I import some things, and like if the Panama Canal gets jammed, my customer doesn't really care, but it did earlier this year, guys. It was so jammed up, and I was like, can y'all like work that out for me? Because I need this thing to port in Houston like 2 weeks ago, so. But it's really fun. I love it. It's always something new. That's why I like it better than just accounting. Not that accounting isn't new all the time, but I never have a day where I go to work and it's just like, oh, this is the same thing as yesterday.
Exactly right. Listen, Taylor, you've been so gracious with your time.
Yes.
And I felt so many connections. Like you're saying stuff, I'm like, yep. Last question for me. Okay. So as you're settled in for about 12 years, which I'm similar.
Yeah.
In that, what is your vision for the business? Like in what way are you looking to maybe not necessarily put your stamp on it, but how do you, when you get to the end of your career, what would make you feel like, hey, this has been a successful run?
Oh man. I mean, I think for me is truly just continuing our legacy, which is such a huge shoes to fill, you know. I think just continuing to provide our customers with great products and excellent customer service, which is going to be an uphill battle every day. And, you know, somewhere, I want it to be somewhere where they like to come, they know we're going to take care of them, and it's a fun place to be too, you know.
Are there ever days with your kids you're like, well, this ain't going 4 generations?
Plenty of days.
I did the same thing. I'm like,
every day.
This ain't gonna happen.
And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm settled into that. I don't know, after 3, like, I don't want to hold over my head the pressure of like, oh, we got to make it 5. Like, no, like, we're just going to do our best today, and we're going to hope that legacy sticks. But there's a lot of things that we're just not in control of. That's what I'm learning as an adult too. And so I'm going to do my best, and no regrets, you know.
So I was thinking, sitting here, that, you know, Taylor's really our first real guest. I mean,
business.
She's losing money
owner,
being
right?
here. Jason, Jason just
Sweet
hangs out at the coffee
Jason.
house all day, right? So we do need to get like a little gift basket or something for our
Yeah.
guests.
Sure,
you
yes.
know, yeah,
That would be
yeah.
an awesome
Send me a
idea.
2x4.
And maybe we can even
Right.
have, and maybe we can even hit up our guests to donate some swag for the gift basket.
yeah.
You know,
I'll drop in
favorite.
some A.
So,
Robertson hats.
We'll send her to the
Yeah.
steakhouse.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
That's
Thank
right. I'll
you.
meet you there. Okay, thank
This
you
is
all
awesome.
for having
All right,
me.
yeah.